Howdy everybody. Do you love space or seeing spacecrafts or creating lasting memories? If you said yes to any of these, you should probably start scheduling an appointment to going to NASA. I'm positive that whoever you are, you can find having fun anywhere in NASA. Whether you want to play games or take selfies or ride the tram tour to see a rocket ship, NASA is the place to be in Texas. Going to NASA in Houston, Texas is one of the best experiences anyone can have. Today I will explain to you when NASA was founded, why NASA is in Houston, Texas, and what NASA does today. So when was NASA founded? You see, in October 1958, a year before the Soviet Union had sent out Sputnik 1 and created what we would call the technology gap in the Cold War, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA for short, was founded. The administration was created supposedly out of pure eagerness to figure out what is out there in our universe and to have a better understanding and to see if there's life on other planets, and also just a little competition with the Soviet Union after the Soviet Union had sent out their first craft. So with something as important as NASA, why would you want to put it in Houston, Texas, or a location in Houston, Texas? Well, for one, Houston is the largest city in Texas, so it's got the size and it's got the money flow to have the ability to house something as important as NASA, and it's also home to the control center. The control center is what you call into if you're out in space, so like the people who are in the International Space Station, when they're talking to the people down here, they're talking to the people who are in Houston right now. See, the very amazing thing about the Johnson Center here in Texas is that the whole complex costs around $1.5 billion to create, and it sits on a total of 1,620 acres. So, like I said, you needed the money to create it, and you needed a good size because it houses a bunch of stuff. So, what has Houston done with the ability to have the control center here? Well, Houston is home to debatably the most important accomplishments of NASA history, such as Gemini, Skylab, and Apollo. All of these grand moments, like I said, would not be able to happen if not for the ability and size of the complex that we had in Houston. Another tidbit, before it was named Johnson Space Center, it was called MSC, which was Manned Space Flight Center. It was named that once we put the center here in Texas, and it was after 1973 when the late president and native Texan Lyndon B. Johnson had gone, and so they decided to name it after him and acknowledge the fact that he had done so much for NASA. Now that you guys have had some background and history of NASA, let's get into what NASA does today. Now that NASA has the ability and name, and what I mean by name is that back in the day nobody really cared about space, but now in 2019 all we care about is space. So they have this massive staff because they can pay for the staff now, and every single day, 24/7, 7 days a week, there's employees watching the sky. There's people who are watching supernovas, there's people watching the Milky Way, tracking black holes. More importantly, there's people who are in constant contact to those who are in the International Space Station as we speak right now. The center is also home to the Orion Multi-Purpose Crew Vehicle, which helped create things like the rover that goes to Mars, all of these things that are happening in Houston right now. And they're home to Life Science Control Room, which conducts experiments in the hopes of, like I mentioned before, of the expansion into space. So all of these things are very important, and the ability to have it in Houston right now is absolutely phenomenal. So, in conclusion, I want to thank all of you for listening to me today, discussing the importance and the excitement that the Johnson Space Center is to me, and hopefully after this to you. I hope my speech has made you eager to go out and seek the center for yourself, the greatness that the center truly is. I think that learning the history behind our greatest accomplishments as Americans, but more importantly as Texans, shows that we are appreciative of those before us. Also, that when we learn before us, we can better ourselves, like those who are currently working at the Johnson Space Center. And those who were before us probably would have never have believed that we would be able to do such things like this. So I leave you the words of James A. Levin. Houston, I think we have a problem.